Alright, let's see about getting this safely out of the fixture. So once you've loosened the clamping rail on one side, you're going to want to run a blade next to it as you slide it away, especially at the rib joints where we've applied glue. Okay, once it's safely slid away, we can tighten down a screw or two just to keep it out of the way. Turn it around. Be real careful because we're leaving the tip to last, and if you snag on anything, you're going to break it off at the tip. So just move slowly. I think these rails could use a good acetone wash when I'm done, just to get all the old glue off. There we go. Alright, so we're getting the rails off first, but the outline could still be stuck down to the base in places. In fact, I think the best bet is to just get the rails out of the way at this point. Once you've gotten them free, just go ahead and drop them off. That'll give you better access under the outline with the blade if you need to get under the outline. This is why I don't have a fixed fence around here. You want to be able to take it away so you can get blades on all three edges that were in contact with things. That would be the edge against the fence, the edge against the form, and the edge flat on the bottom of the form. Alright. We used a lot of glue in here repairing things, so this one's going to take a little bit of patience. If you push out on the fence a little bit, you can see where it's still stuck, and just work your blade around. There we go, we got free. And very similar points are going to be stuck, especially where we've done repairs like out here at the tip. So just be patient. I'm going to run the blade vertically around pushing out very slightly. Where it's stuck, you want to definitely be against the plastic so you don't cut the wood too much. That tip's a little ragged from the repairs, but that's a low stress area, so I think we're alright. Alright, I slipped the blade under at each of the rib locations because it could glue to the surface. And it looks like it's coming apart nicely. Alright, so we got that side mostly off. We still got some down at the root. I'm going to get the rest of this, make sure it's broken free. Most of that did not stick at all. It's stuck at this rib. That's why I've got these little pads in here. That one is really stuck down. There we go. That's good, that's good, that's good. Alright, and we've got to do the same thing right in here at the root. So coming underneath and coming vertical next to it, got that side free, this side's almost free, something underneath still grabbing it a little bit. There we go. Alright, that is our completed outline. What we need to do now is the bottom boron on each side here needs to be aligned the rest of the way in. It kind of got tangled on the spar and it's not following the outline on in. Plenty of glue in this area, so I'm going to use 10% to just kind of move things a little bit. I'm going to break this boron off right as it touches the spar so we can get it down there on the outline and into the spar. I want to complete that loop of boron, or that's a high stress area where this all comes into the spar here. So we definitely want to make sure that boron is attached to the outline and to the spar. I had it long enough enough that I could get the boron up on the surface of the spar, but it's not following that around. I mean, the spar is thicker than the outline at that point. So I'm breaking it off right where it touches the spar, adding a little 10%, and then trying to embed the tip of the boron into the spar just a hair. And that'll kind of lock it in there. Alright. It looks like I knocked free a piece of this boron on the spar, so I had some trouble getting the boron on the spar. That's the first time I've done it on a round spar, and it gave me a little bit of trouble. So I'm going to have to think that process through a little bit. And I'm thinking I may want to add a little wedge on the outline in this area, so that where it meets the spar, it's as thick as the spar. I'm picking up some spare boron right now. Those little pieces I broke off, I don't need them in my foot. What's nice about a white building surface, if you actually build over the surface, you'll be able to find those dangerous boron pieces. So on the top, the outline is flush with the top of the spar, and the boron extends over the spar and makes a real good joint. On the bottom, the outline wasn't quite as thick as the spar, and so the boron dead ends into the spar. I think that'll work. Alright, now we've got excess wood that's not doing any bit of good at the back of that rib where we put that wedge in there. So we're going to get our Dremel set up with a diamond cutoff wheel. This is a dental diamond wheel. This one's kind of worn out. I probably ought to think about getting a fresh one on here, but let's see what it does here. Nice thing about it is I got such a fine tooth cut to it. I'm going to hold the spar as close as possible and then just come down vertically. Nope, it's not cutting. So let's get a new wheel on that. I was recently doing some cutting on some push rods for a RC plane, and I think I chewed up that wheel pretty bad. Alright, I'm going to pause it because I need to find a screwdriver. Alright, got a fresh cut-off wheel here. I'm going to grab the spar close to the rib, come over top the rib. Oh yeah. Okay, so I cut the wedge off front and back of the rib, and cut the wedge and the spar off right at the back of the rib. So we look real good there. And let's mask this thing before covering. Thirty-two milligrams. I'll have to look up whether that's in line with what I wanted. I didn't record it last time. Alright, cool. I will pause it a moment while we get set up and get some of this stuff cleaned up and get set up to cover that prop blade. Alright, this is my covering fixture. 3D printed to match the twist of the blade, and about 1 centimeter larger out from all edges of the blade, roughly. Put a little bit of Vaseline around the edge of that, rub it in, and clean off your hands. Then if you remember, we saved the covering from along the side of the stab, and that just nicely fits on here. So we're going to tack down one end, loosely tack the other end, and take our cautery or soldering iron and just cut it off. It's already been wrinkled. It was wrinkled when we did the stab. Hopefully we've got the rest of it there. We'll do the other blade. Alright, now we're going to just spread it out. Get the big wrinkles out of it. And you just got a light coating of Vaseline to kind of hold it in place there. Get the major wrinkles out of it. Alright, then I'm going to take and just pull out on the sides just a little bit. That's going to actually make it a little bit slack crosswise here. Then we're going to take our outline, and the end with the little slot in it is the end for the spar, and we're going to lay it on there. Now that should conform. So you saw I pushed down there a little to get a little more slack. And I'm looking for spots that are holding it up, and spots that I pushed down too much and it's gotten too wrinkled. Alright, that's pretty close to down. It's not quite down at this end. I think this corner up here is holding it. You can see I put a thumbprint in it when I do that, so got to stretch it back out and then see if I can ease it down again. A little bit loose in the middle. Alright, let's see if we can do the same trick we did on the stab. I've got a bunch of outlines here in the way. outlines and ribs and bears, oh my. Alright. I don't know if we can get away with doing this. That may help. Put a little bit of weight on there. Just to help it conform. Alright. Get our 90-to-1 mixture. Our brush. And we're just going to apply a little right around the outline. This is 3M77, thinned with electric clean, available from Lowe's. Although it's not sold online, I find it's still in the stores. Electra Clean. It's an electrical parts degreaser. And it's basically a pure substitute for trichloroethylene. Electric Clean makes some other mixtures, but they've got some other ingredients in them. The Electric Clean electric parts degreaser is 100% the substitute for trichloroethylene. So I don't know if the others have lubricants in them or inert products or what. But I've had decent luck with this Electric Clean. It's not quite trichloroethylene, but it's a lot better than using naphtha. A lot quicker to evaporate. I have not had good luck with naphtha. Other people have, so yeah, you know, whatever works for you. So I get the outline first, and then I'm getting the ribs tacked down, and I'm just dragging the brush along the angle, the 90-degree angle where the covering meets the frame. I'm not pushing down to where the covering is pushed away from the frame. Alright, so far so good. Now on this thin of a section, I like to fold a little bit of the covering up onto the outer face of the frame. So when I cut it out, I'm going to brace myself, and I'm going to leave about a millimeter or maybe half a millimeter, because it's only 25 thou thick, which is about 0.6 millimeters. So we're not going to leave much. We're going to leave a little flap of the covering there. And I am taking short strokes and bracing my hand. Okay, I'm going to leave the tip for later, so that the covering still holds the thing up in the air makes it easier to do all this cutting. Holding down the button, if it starts not cutting very well, it's probably the batteries are dead or you're not holding the button well enough. Alright, then we'll come around the tip. And then we got to get on top of the spar there. There we go. Okay. Set aside the frame. Get our brush back out and our mixture. And I'm going to come in here and cut right to the frame where it goes up onto the spar, so we don't get a little bridge of covering there, and then brush into the gap between the covering and the outline, and then coax the covering over with the brush. And I actually have a few spots where it's cut a little too much slack there, and so I'm wrapping it around onto a third side. Nothing more frustrating than the covering coming loose on your prop, and by wrapping it around partially like this, it really eliminates that issue. You could probably even go with thinner glue, say your 180 to 1 mixture. This is 90 to 1 by mass. So you don't want to add a ton of it here. You do want to wet it out and coax it to fold over. Don't want to just brush it down without getting some in the gap there, because otherwise you're brushing glue on top of the covering, not where you need it in the joint. So and in a lot of cases, just capillary forces will get the covering to lay right down. You might need to coax it just a little with the brush. Got a little hair from something laying in there. There's a little hair that's a piece of the covering from where we had that bridge supporting it. Alright, a little bit more here, and I think we are covered. Perfect. Alright, I'll lay it on the form. It looks like it hasn't sprung back at all. It's a beautiful fit to the form. Yeah, I'm really happy with that blade. So tomorrow off video I will make the other blade and my prop hub. The only thing left to do on the plane, I'm not going to show the prop hub because I'm doing my version of the VP, and I've got parts I've already made, and I don't want to come in half built on that and try and explain everything. It is my own design. It takes some aspects of the Traeger VP, but it uses this axial hinge with the polyamide as my low friction surface, and so far I'm real happy with it. It's a lot easier to me than wrapping the figure 8 Kevlar hinges. So far I'm real happy with this VP. I'm happy pretty much with this balsa boron prop design. Taken a lot of things from Guyot and her article in iNav, and then adapting those to the use of the boron pen. I need to do a little bit more work in this area. That was a lot of ad hoc work at the end to get that fitted up. I broke both outlines trying to get the spar in. That's not good. I think part of the issue is I need to go a little deeper with my outline here so it matches up with the spar trough. But yeah, overall I'm real happy with the way that went together. I hope that helps you. I hope you got some good ideas from that, and good luck on your building. We will make a short video in doing the fin and attaching that fin to the tail boom, because I think that's an important step, and I've got some comments to make on that. So we'll see you next time around, probably tomorrow.